The prison no one escapes. The sun was setting behind the hills, painting the sky with soft shades of gold and orange. The light fell over a tall, gray building that stood alone on the edge of the land. Its walls were high, its gates were heavy, and its windows were nothing more than thin lines of iron. This was Stone Ridge Prison. The locals had a saying, "No one escapes from Stone Ridge." The saying was not born from fear alone, but from years of stories, of men who tried to run and were never seen again, or were brought back, broken and silent. Inside those walls lived hundreds of men. Some had accepted their fate. Others still dreamed of freedom. Among them was a man named Michael Carter. A calm beginning. Michael was not the kind of man who liked to fight. He was quiet, thoughtful, and carried a sadness in his eyes that never seemed to fade. Before his arrest, he had worked as a carpenter in a small town. He loved shaping wood with his hands, turning rough planks into smooth tables and chairs. But life had been unkind. A mistake, an argument that went too far, and a night filled with anger had brought him here. Now, he wore the same gray uniform as everyone else, walked the same narrow corridors, and slept on the same hard bed. Every morning, the guards unlocked the cells at 6. Michael would step out slowly, his shoulders bent slightly forward, as though the weight of the past never left him. He would line up with the others for breakfast, where silence was demanded and noise was punished. The days were long. Work in the yard, cleaning duties, a single hour of sunlight in the open space surrounded by barbed wire. The rest of the time was spent behind walls so thick that even the sound of the wind outside could not pass through. Michael kept to himself. He did not join gangs. He did not pick fights. But he listened, and he observed. He noticed how the guards rotated. He noticed how the floodlights turned at night. And though he never spoke of it, in his heart, a thought began to form. Could he escape? The relatable problem. For Michael, it was not just about freedom. His daughter, Emily, was waiting for him. She was 12 years old now. He remembered her laughter, the way she used to hold his hand when they crossed the street. In every letter she wrote, she asked him the same question. "When are you coming home, Dad?" Michael never knew what to reply. He could not lie to her, but he also could not bear to tell her that he might never come back. That thought alone kept him awake at night, staring at the cracked ceiling of his cell. Others around him had tried to escape before. A man named Harris had once dug a hole beneath the laundry room, but the guards caught him before he could even reach the outer wall. Another, a strong fighter named Brooks, had climbed the fences, only to be brought down by floodlights and gunfire. Each attempt ended the same way. Failure. Yet Michael's heart whispered something different. If there is a way, I must find it. For her. The gentle twist. One rainy evening, as Michael swept the corridor floors, he overheard two guards talking. "They're moving the old drainage tunnels again," one said. "Supposed to be sealed this time." Michael paused, lowering his broom. He remembered something he had once seen in the yard. A small metal grate near the far corner, half hidden beneath weeds. He had never thought much of it before. But now, the word stayed in his mind. Drainage tunnels. That night, back in his cell, he spoke quietly to his cellmate, Daniel Hayes, a wiry man with sharp eyes. Daniel had been inside longer than most and knew the prison like the back of his hand. Michael leaned closer and whispered, "Do you know about the tunnels?" Daniel's eyes narrowed. He studied Michael for a long moment before answering. "Everyone knows about them. But no one's ever made it through. They say the tunnels are dark, filled with water, and blocked by iron gates. Men have tried. They never came back." Michael did not respond right away. He looked at the floor, then back at Daniel. "Maybe we can try, together." Daniel let out a soft, humorless laugh. "You're different, Carter. Most men dream of escape for themselves. You're thinking of someone else. That's dangerous. But maybe that's what makes it possible. The careful plan. Days turned into weeks as the two men began to prepare. They moved slowly, never rushing, never drawing attention. Michael saved small tools from the workshop, an old screwdriver, a piece of wire. Daniel bribed another inmate to look the other way when they worked near the corner of the yard. At night, when the prison was quiet, they whispered plans in the dark. They timed the guards' footsteps. They memorized the pattern of the lights. They even counted how long the sirens took to sound after an alarm. Finally, on a cold night when the moon was hidden behind thick clouds, they decided to act. The attempt. Michael's heart pounded as he lifted the grate. Rust scraped against metal, the sound sharp in the silence. Daniel lowered himself first, disappearing into the darkness below. Michael followed, his hands trembling as he held onto the slimy edge. The air was damp and heavy. Water dripped from the walls. The tunnel smelled of earth and rot. They crouched low, moving slowly, the water rising to their knees. Every step forward felt like a step into another world, far from the lights and the guards. Yet fear was never far. At any moment, they could be discovered. After what felt like hours, they reached the first gate, thick iron bars, rusted but strong. Daniel pulled out the wire. His hands moved quickly, twisting, pushing, working against the lock. Michael stood watch, listening for any sound above. Finally, with a faint click, the lock gave way. The gate creaked open. They pressed forward, hearts racing. But the second gate was different. It was heavier, and behind it, the tunnel was almost completely flooded. The water shimmered in the dim light from their small, smuggled flashlight. Daniel shook his head. This is it. We'll drown if we try. Michael looked at the water, then thought of Emily's letters. He closed his eyes for a moment. I can't stop now. Not when she's waiting. Daniel sighed, then gripped Michael's shoulder. Then we go together. The satisfying ending. The last part of their journey was the hardest. They swam through the cold, black water, their lungs burning, their arms heavy. For a moment, Michael thought he would not make it. But then, ahead, he saw a faint light, a small circle glowing at the end of the tunnel. With the last of his strength, he pushed forward. His hands reached the edge of another grate, this one weak with rust. Together, he and Daniel forced it open. And then, suddenly, they were outside. The night air hit their faces. The stars spread wide above them. The hills stretched out in every direction. Behind them, Stone Ridge stood tall and silent, its walls still unbroken in the eyes of those inside. They lay on the grass, gasping for breath, feeling the earth beneath them. For the first time in years, Michael felt the wind on his face without chains. Daniel laughed softly, his voice shaking. No one escapes from Stone Ridge, huh? Michael smiled, though tears filled his eyes. Someone just did. He thought of Emily then, of her smile, of her hope, of the promise he had made without words. He was not free yet. There would be dangers ahead, miles to travel, and a future uncertain. But in that moment, under the open sky, he felt closer to her than ever before. And sometimes, that is enough to keep walking.